Okay, I'm going a little live early tonight, just about a few minutes. I'm not sure if anybody will be on here tonight. Um, as Olivia posted earlier, she's not feeling well physically and mentally tonight, so she is soaking up right now in the bathtub. She's trying to chill and relax. It's been a rough week. Um, like I said, this episode is not really going into a whole lot of detail yet. I have two other parts put together right now and still kind of learning everything. Um, but the first video has the cover, well, the title of it, his life, which I thought it was odd when we first got contacted about this case back in April, March. It's been a while. I'm trying to think, but we were covering Colby's Brown's case at the time, and then we usually take a small break and you know where we got our personal lives and everything. Yeah, it was middle of April. Oh, excuse me. But I read on it then, and I started picking back up on it a couple weeks ago to get ready for this time to start it in June. We were going to start last week, but we done the blackout, well, the podcast blackout. We didn't do it, so we shot for this Saturday. Um, it's a very, very sad case because it involves, he's a teenager, but he's still a child. He's 15 years old, not too far from 16. Just a tragic overall event. Like I said, we'll go more into that later. Like I said, this is just basically, which I thought it was weird too, not to really get off topic, but and some of the pictures I'd seen of Kyle, he actually reminds me a little bit of my cousin, which he's just graduated this year. But anyway, Kyle was a young teenager at the age of 15 years old. Like I said, he was almost 16 because he disappeared June 15th. Well, missing, and his birthday was July 12th. In Moundsville, West Virginia. I've been to Moundsville a few times with to do the paranormal stuff at the penitentiary, so I don't really know a lot of the area, but I've been up there. But at the time of his disappearance, he was around 5'3", which we've talked about, I believe, in other videos. Olivia's 5 foot, so not much taller than she is, and weighed around 120 pounds. He had blue eyes and brown hair, and he was originally from Kentucky, but moved to his father's home about a year beforehand. And his mother described him as, just your typical teenage boy, about he was intelligent, he had a great sense of humor. He was major video game player, which, I got, almost a 10-year-old, well, 6 months from a 10-year-old, and that's all he does is video games. He wanted to join the army or the military after high school. And he wanted to save funds so he could attend a video game programming school. I saw one news report that's talked about how his grandfather said he talked about how good of a kid he was, and he mentioned about Kyle being excited to try out for the school's football team. Um, I played high school football, like it's always entertaining. Um, Concerning the move from his mother to his father's house, seems to be the normal kid stuff. Like his mom mentioned in one article that he kind of had grew impatient to some of her house rules. And she said he was getting to that age where they weren't getting along very well. I've seen other, and I guess in a way I kind of was like that too when I was younger and as a teenager, which I'll be 31 in 2 months. But they get to that age where they're kind of more, especially with two homes. Um, if they live with one parent, they might start like, well, I don't like your rules and stuff and like that. Hopefully, I won't have to go to that situation, but that's a very possibility in a few years. But she said he was getting to that, like I said, well, they didn't get along, but she felt being around, his father and stuff would be a good idea where they could bond together. That's not a bad thing at all. Parent bonding, whether it be mother or father, is always a good thing. She mentioned in one article the last time she spoke to Kyle was around February. This would have been at the same year. And she said he didn't want to talk to her very much, that he stayed upset with her. Like I said, just typical, I would assume, typical child, little teenage boy, getting older, kind of getting rebellious, kind of in a way, but not like nothing bad. Just basically, I would say more of becoming to who you possibly are going to be for the rest of your life, type thing. Um, there was some confusion in some of the articles when I read a few of the news articles. One stated his body was discovered on the 16th, and another article said his dad reported him missing on the 17th, and then he was found on the 18th. But his mom told me that it was the 16th. And before I go into more detail, I was going to include some more of what his mom said. Like I said, we're not really going to touch on his death yet, just kind of more of respect for him in this video with like the talking about his life and stuff. Because everything I've read, I've talked to a few people, like nobody has said a bad word about him at all. His mom, like I said he was every parent's dream. This is after I talked to her a few days ago to kind of add more onto this video. And he was well behaved, super smart, stayed on the honor roll. They never saw him open a book to study. He just caught on to everything. Like there are some very good. I'm kind of more of a hands-on type person. I know a lot of people, are very good with just picking up things and knowing things, by just listening. He's never in any trouble. He was starting to experiment with marijuana, but most kids, do about that age. Um, so I never done anything like that. But I was around people that did, which like there's nothing wrong with that at all. That's a very normal age. Like I said, it's when he's trying to find out who he is, just experimenting. All teenagers, a lot of them do it. So he was very set on what he wanted in life and was a go-getter. So that's that's really good, especially at 15. Like that's very very good in a teenager. He wasn't going to let anything get in his way of his dreams. So he had a real good, seemed like a strong head on his shoulders. Uh, and she mentioned talking to Kyle was like talking to a very mature 30-year-old adult. So I have a cousin. He's a couple years younger than me, but he was more raised. His dad was an older gentleman, and his mom was older. But he mostly hung out with his dad all the time, and his dad's friends. So he was around older people all the time, and he would basically, you would think that he was an adult with how he acted, very very responsible and stuff. But he wanted to study computers, wanted to be the very best video game designer. That's which Adrian, my son, wants to do that as well because he, like I said, he loves video games. But at me at 15, I love video games as well. You okay? He mentioned about wanting to move to Japan because he did research and that was the best place to go. So, very, very good dream to have to go to Japan. I've never been to Japan. I've traveled a few states, but never overseas. I'm afraid to fly. He was very caring and loving to everyone, especially his family and friends. I've heard that with a lot of the other people I've talked to. They said about how nice he was, and he would like literally give the shirt off his back if they needed it, and he was always laughing, just wanted people to be happy. That he was nice, outgoing, but was a quiet kid at the same time. He was very smart, creative, and everyone liked him. Like so, that's everything I've been told, read. There's not one bad thing. Like I said, you can't really count the marijuana experimenting a bad thing. Like I said, he considered his friends to be family. So he seemed to be very close. Like if you knew him and you knew him well, then you're very close with him, and he treated you that way. And he was loved, like I said, by everyone who came to know him, and he loved to make people laugh. He had been that way since he was 3 years old. So, like I said, a very loving child, well, a teenager, I should say. Just seemed to be. You okay? How are you doing? Oh. But like I said, with him being found, his like I said, I don't really want to go into a whole lot of detail yet, but next Saturday is the plan to actually go into it. But So he was found the 16th. You know, everything around this case is very, very sad. So if you guys have any questions or would like to add on to anything, you can do so. I have a little notepad that I can write down stuff. And if you want to talk to me, you can message the page, Killers Crawlspace, or you can personally message me on Facebook, which some of the people that I talk to might be viewing this now. But everything I went over in this video, um, even if, say that he, like, there's, how do I want to say this? Like, even if, say that he did do some bad things, not saying that he did, but nobody deserves what happened to Kyle. Nobody. And, and finding out, how good of a kid he was. And he didn't seem like he was going to be somebody that basically failed in life. Like he was going to let it happen. Whatever he wanted, he was going to get. And, sadly, that was cut short. And just everything else around this case is very, very sad because, we're literally approaching 4 years. So, I guess this will be, like I said, this will just be a short video. So if you guys would like to contact, add anything, because I'd like to interview some people, like besides just the video wise. Like I said, I got 2 more planned for us, which hopefully Olivia will be in the next one. And I've reached out to some other people, and I'm hoping to hear back from them. So far, I haven't. But if you guys would like to possibly, like, because I think about interviewing people for like the podcast that we do as well, and then just kind of put it in, tie you in. Sorry, I'm getting a little tongue tied there. But basically, to tell stories that you might know, because I've heard of a few rumors, and hopefully we get this out there, people start talking, and hopefully get some people doing something on it. Because for us to be talking about it on a video, and how our previous videos are, that justice has not been served yet, and we're here to discuss that and bring, because I've never heard, like, Moundsville's 3.5 hours from us. Like that, I've been in that area, but I've never heard of this case locally, and I'm glad it was brought to our attention because it's a case that really, like I said, needs to be solved. Sorry if I'm kind of rambling on here for a few minutes, but like I said, I guess this will wrap up, and I hope to see you all on the next video that tuned in tonight. Like I said, if you have any questions or if you know anything about his case that you think that we should know about, like I said, please reach out. Killers Crawlspace. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, which usually Instagram and Facebook I check more. Twitter I don't check as, like, I get notifications, but I might not check as frequently. I'm also going to be having a blog posted, which I'll be posting this video in. And if we interview anybody for the podcast, and the other video is basically more of just a blog to keep track of everything that we do, that we cover on the case. One thing before I go, the people that don't know about this case, his mom had sent me some photos the other day of him. Here's a photo of him, as a child. Yeah, it's just heartbreaking. And see him, with a fish, fishing. He just there's like, I just don't understand, why somebody could do this. Like this picture, this is one I've seen in a lot of articles. Well, it's kind of cool. There we go. That's one he kind of reminds me of my cousin a lot. Just like that, I don't personally know anybody in this, and it's just heartbreaking. Like I said, seeing like this picture as well. Just seeing a picture of he's a kid. No matter, he's 15 years old. It don't matter. He's still a kid, and it's just heartbreaking. Like I said earlier, everything we've talked about in this episode, well, this video, I mean, about how good of a person he was, and a good person he was going to be, and for something tragic to happen to him like it did, it's just unfair. Like, life is unfair, and it's really sad. But I thank you all for tuning in. Like I said, we'll see you next week. It'll be probably around the same time, which, like I said, we got 3 kids, so we got to put them in bed, get everything situated, and get everything ready to go. Like I said, next week we will talk about his death, and then the next video after that I have put together is basically the investigation, some of the rumors and stuff, which the death video we'll talk about a little bit about that. But thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you later.